Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, let us see the Kubernetes hands-on for labels and selectors. So first, let us see labels. So labels are key value pairs that are attached to the object such as pods, nodes, and namespace. Okay, so we'll see how to create the labels for pod, nodes, and namespace as well. And then we will also cover how we can delete the labels for pods, nodes, and namespace. So from the Kubernetes documentation, let me just take an example for this manifest file. Okay, I'm going to copy this. And this is my Kubernetes cluster. Okay, I'm going to create the label pod.yaml file. Okay, API version v1 and kind pod. So here the pod name, let me make it a label hyphen pod. Okay, so here we are using the labels environment, production, app, nginx. So this is the key value pair type. Okay, and this is the container. Okay, let's keep one labels for now. Okay, kubectl get pod. Okay, so I have some pods running. Let me create the new pod, kubectl. So to view the labels of the existing pods, we can use kubectl get pod. Show labels. Okay, so these are all the labels set to respective pods. Okay, now let me create the pod that we just created, the YAML. Kubectl create label pod. Okay, pod is created. Okay, so here we can see for the label pod, the environment equal production. So this is the label we set on the manifest file. Kubectl get pod, and then you can also specify the pod name, label hyphen pod, and show label. Okay, this will display only the output for the label pod. Okay, so to create the label using the command line, we can use this command kubectl run. Let me create the Nginx part. So there is one already. So let me make it Nginx part 2. And image equal Nginx. And labels. Let me put app equal Nginx. Okay, now if I run kubectl get part, so this is the one which is created using the imperative method, and we have assigned the label called app equal Nginx. Okay, kubectl get part, Nginx part 2. Okay, this is the label we just created using the command line. Okay, so next let's see how we can assign more than one label for the pod. So let's create a new pod using the imperative method, kubectl run nginx pod 3 image equal nginx. And here for multiple labels we can use comma separated values. So environment env equal dev and key, or we can put app equal front end. Okay, now if I run kubectl get pod nginx pod 3 and show labels. Okay, so now we can see two labels for this part. One is app equal front end and the second one is env equal dev. Okay, so this is while we create the pod using imperative method, we assign the labels here. And let's say if I want to assign a label for the existing pod, we can use the kubectl label pod, and for example here nginx pod 3. Okay, let me take pod 2, and here image, no, so this is the existing part. So here I can specify. Okay, before that let me check the existing label for this part, kubectl get part show labels. Okay, so only one label is there, app equal to nginx. So let me create kubectl label pod nginx pod 2. So here n equal. Okay, now if I run show labels nginx pod 2, we can see there is one more label which is n equal friend we just created. And if I want to assign the label for the nginx pod 3, and here if I use app equal, let's say if I make it backend instead of, so already for nginx pod 3 we can see there is two labels, app equal front end and env equal dev. So now I'm going to mention app equal backend. Let's see what happened. Okay, so it says app label is already has a value front end. So if you want to change it, you want to specify override. Okay, now I'm going to override this change. Okay, now if I run show labels for the nginx pod 3 app equal backend. Okay. Okay, so next let's create the label for the node. Okay, kubectl get node hyphen show labels. Okay, so currently these are the labels already assigned for each node. Okay, let's see how we can create the new label for each of the worker node. Okay, so kubectl label K8s worker 1. So here I'm going to create disk type equal SATA. The server doesn't have a resource type. Okay, so it should be kubectl label. For pod, we specify pod, right? So similarly for the node, we need to specify node. Okay, so this is created. And next for worker node 2, I'm going to set the disk type as SSD. Okay, and for worker node 3, let me make it the disk type NVMe. Okay, so I only have two worker node, right? So I don't have the third one. So that is the reason we get this error message. Okay, so now if I run kubectl get nodes show labels, okay, here you can see disk type SATA and here disk type SSD. And if you have multiple nodes, you can set up the labels accordingly. Okay, next we'll see how we can set up the label for the namespace. Okay, to check the label, kubectl get namespace show labels. Okay, these are the namespace name and these are the labels for the respective namespace. Okay, now let's see how we can assign the label for the existing namespace. Okay, kubectl label namespace, and you can choose any namespace. For example, I'm going to take the production, and here I'm just putting env equal prod. Okay, so this is label. Let me use the show labels command. And now if I go to the production namespace, here you can see that there is a new label called env equal prod. Okay, so to remove the labels, let's see how we can do it for the pod, node, and a namespace. Okay, kubectl get pod. Okay, show labels. Okay, so now let me pick any one of them. For example, for Nginx part 2, let me remove the end. Kubectl label pod Nginx part 2, and I'm going to remove the end. Okay, so this is unlabeled. If I go to the Nginx part 2, here we don't see that end equal friend anymore. Okay, so next let's see how we can remove the label for the node. So before that, kubectl get node and show labels. So we can pick any one of them, and then we can use the label command to remove the labels. Okay, kubectl label nodes K8. Let me put worker 1. and remove the disk type label. Okay, which is unlabeled, and this is the worker node 1. So disk type equals data, so that should be removed. Now if I go to worker node 1, okay, I don't see that label anymore. Okay, and similarly for removing the labels for namespace, kubectl get ns. Okay, so now if I want to remove this env for the production namespace, kubectl label namespace production followed by the namespace and then followed by the label env. Okay, now if I run show labels production, I don't see that label anymore. Okay, so that's it in this video, and I'll see you in the next.